Depends on what mode. Like in the top mode, it felt like wild. Like honestly, that's how wild it felt. Welcome to episode 10 of the ReCHRG Podcast. We're your hosts. I'm Rob.
I'm Troyden.
I'm Adam.
And I'm Will.
For anybody that didn't watch the last episode, Troyden is the founder and owner of Crestline Bikes, and you are joining us to talk Eurobike and motors and all that stuff. So hopefully you're interested in all that stuff.
Super interested, and I'm going to be living vicariously through you guys because I wasn't at Eurobike. So.
Cool. Well, hopefully we can share some of the key bits of info. So I would say at Eurobike, Will and I went and we slogged it out we went on Tuesday. So we were there Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, which is a lot of time to spend in those halls in Germany, lots of walking. I saw one picture of you and you look quite broken by like day 5.
Yeah, that was after the 10K of walking. I think.
I told you.
Yeah,
I did tell you.
There's a lot of walking, but it's actually really worth it because there's not so many new bike launches there anymore, other than bikes from more, I'd say, smaller brands and brands that we don't necessarily get in the UK. You probably won't get in the US either. But it's been really great over the past few years for new bits of tech like drive systems. So last year we had the Pinion and the MGU motor gearbox all in one, which was, pretty cool.
Crazy that's been a year already, huh?
I know, it's flown by, and
I'm almost in the mind of it's only been a year and now something else is like there's loads of other stuff coming out.
That's true too, but yeah.
Yeah, it's gone by super quick. But this year I would say there was a couple of standouts. Now, probably one that took everybody by surprise, and in fact I know other people were like really almost sucker punched by it because they had no idea, is the DJI Avinox Drive System and their AmFlow bike. Now, this headlines, the stats are crazy. So 120 Newton meters.
Peak.
Yeah.
Peak
for 30 seconds.
But,
exactly.
Right.
So yeah, let's be correct about this. Me and Troyden weren't at Eurobike. We're gonna fight this corner.
You be the devil's advocate. Okay,
sure.
so how about I present it like this? 105 Newton meters.
That's still massively
That is
impressive.
massive.
And 800 watts.
Huge.
Or you can get 30 seconds of 120 Newton meters and 1,000 watts.
I think we get a round of applause for that. Corrected.
Yeah.
Whoa.
I think we need the horns as well on that one.
Also, huge numbers.
Can we say that 30 seconds is actually quite a long time?
It is.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Come again?
No, I'm just saying.
30 seconds in heaven is better than none.
Oh dear. Oh no, we've gone there already.
No, I meant because when we did our little test ride, I was thinking, 30 seconds, it's not long for a boost mode, but it did actually go on for quite a while.
Especially when you've got 1,000 watts, 120 Newton meters, and 30 seconds, you can cover quite a lot of ground.
I have a question.
Yeah.
They say you can re-trigger it.
Yes.
How long do you have to wait between, or can you just immediately re-trigger it?
You can
In which case it's like not only 30
You can
seconds.
immediately re-trigger it. You can immediately.
So essentially, they're going to do a software update at some point that removes the need to just keep pressing that button. You're just going to put it into a mode that stays constant, right?
Yeah, or just keep spamming it when you're climbing.
I'm bad for it. Like on a Shimano motor, you'll hear deet, 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 as like constantly trying to keep going above boost mode.
I do think there'll be
Need more
some
power.
kind of thermal limit though. It will get to the point if you're doing like a 2,000 meter climb and you just keep spamming that thing. But I've got to give it to them. 120 Newton meters in a motor that it's bigger than this one. Obviously, this is the another motor from TQ, but it's only 2.5 kilos. So it's pretty small. It's smaller than the Bosch, less weight than the Bosch Race and the Shimano and most other kind of mid-drive e-bikes that are out there at the moment.
How does it compare to a Bosch SX weight-wise? Just to compare it to some SL
It's
motors.
2.52 kilos and an SX is 2 kilos.
Okay, so it's half a kilo. And these TQs?
That's 1.85 kilos.
Okay.
And the size of it, what's comparable size-wise to the new DJI motor?
So this is the Bosch Race, and this is about, well, you'll know more than me, but I think this is about 2.6 or 2.7.
2.7.
Okay, so it's 200 grams lighter than this. And on paper, this is 85 Newton meters, and that's 120 peak and 1,000 watts. And this is, Bosch say 600 watts. That's what Bosch say.
Yeah,
I'm super curious about these numbers too, because I'm sure at some point I've had someone from Bosch say that they don't really like playing the numbers game. And I think if you take this, which was, what did you say? 85?
Yeah, just give me 1 sec.
Okay.
What was that? I heard loads of shouting now. Right.
Okay.
There was water in there.
Oh, fuck.
That's a full cup as well.
Right.
So put this down again
Yeah.
and tell us how many Newton meters it is.
So this is a Bosch motor, a race motor. This is 2.7 kilos, and this has 85 Newton meters, and Bosch say 600 watts. So to give you an idea, the DJI versus that is 120 and 1,000. 120 Newton meters and 1,000 watts.
Something else to keep in mind probably is that if we compare this to a Shimano motor EP8, it's basically the same outputs, 85 Newton meters. Anyone who's ridden a Bosch motor and a Shimano motor knows that they feel pretty different. So I think there is some nuance that goes into the tuning of the motor, where you get the power, what cadence, what the low end power is like, etc. So I think that's something that these are incredibly impressive numbers, as everyone has acknowledged. I think the ride characteristics and how you get those numbers out of that are going to be what's important.
Yeah, totally. Because stats on paper are only one part of it. In fact, how they've programmed it, the software, how it actually delivers the power is really key. One thing I do remember on the DJI versus the ZF, because we got the opportunity to try both of those, is down low. So the ZF is it's 90 Newton meters and 600 watts. But down low on the initial very low RPM, it was super
Nice power.
punchy, would literally lift the back wheel up off the ground. Whereas the DJI, I felt it didn't quite have that on the lower down. Once you got spinning, it's like
Then it was
it's like a
insane.
rocket.
Yeah.
But the difference in characteristics, so on paper you would think the ZF's going to feel way less punchy, but it was almost the other way around.
Which is mad to think, because when we were at the Bosch SX launch last year, the whole thing was cadence. It's always focused on cadence, SL, kind of lightweight bikes, is you can get that peak power as long as you're speeding up. But the ZF is quite a bit smaller than DJI, right?
Yeah.
Motor size.
We'll come on to the ZF in a minute.
But more just to the fact that, like,
Yeah, just chill.
The only reason I say this is what we were explaining when we were at the Bosch press conference or press release was it to fit more Newton meters or more torque within a space. You need physical space. Wattage you can adjust without having physical space. But in terms of Newton meters and torque and actual power, you need space and size. Hence the reason the SX motor is physically be able to smaller, but it still gets the same power at the top end. So it's really interesting to see that DJI have managed to keep that in there. And same with ZF, is they managed to get more torque in a smaller area. So it must be a completely different drive system.
Yeah.
I'd be curious to know like how much they could get out of one of these full power motors if they tuned it in a way that it was more reliant on cadence, as opposed to just having that low down grunt that's nice when you come out of a corner or when you want to just lift the front wheel quickly, because it's that immediate like power. It's not like you're spinning it up to get there.
Yeah.
So it's almost more, so I think all of these things are super interesting and like, got to ride them, man.
Yeah, totally. And numbers on paper don't tell the whole story. But the DJI system as a whole, I think, is not just the motor, it's the whole package. They seem to have come in swinging, man. So we've got a powerful on paper motor, and in reality it is powerful. You ride it and you're like, shit, this is fast. This thing's really quick. Battery is one of the highest energy density batteries that are on the market. It's 800 watt hours and it's 3.74 kilos. So just to give it a bit of context, the current Bosch 750 watt hours weighs 4.4 kilos. So it's over half a kilo lighter. Now, no doubt, new stuff from all the brands will come, and the Bosch 400 has a similar energy density to that. But to come out with that type of battery and have an 800 and a 600, and to come out with like features like Bluetooth remotes, lots of brands are still wired, and to have a touch screen with that DJI Action 4 screen on it.
Is the
Pretty good
screen
system.
wired in? Or is that Bluetooth as well?
The screen is wired in because that's like the system controller.
Yeah.
But to have all of that and to come out at a time when like there was other motor brands testing this and no one had any idea that it was coming. Like literally, like you run a bike company.
Yeah, we didn't know anything about it.
And there was other motor brands there that were sucker punch. Like they're like, how have they done this? How is this possible?
And they're like, we're going to show our new motor at Eurobike, but no one's going to want to look at it because the DJI thing just stole. So
It literally has blown everything out of the water, and it feels I feel like I want to do a service to ZF, and like that's incredible. But
Yeah.
there's a lot of claims, and I think the thing that we have to worry about is firstly, Gen 1 of something tends to have teething issues. So we haven't seen any of these bikes other than on their own Amflow bike for a start. There's been plenty of testing. Rob, you were part of the somewhat testing, right, of the bike and previous generations and all the rest of it. But it's not like Crestline. It's not like on any brand that's gone through this R&D development process that we know is tried and tested now. So I'm a bit nervous in some respect. There's a lot of gizmos and gadgets on this.
They said they're on their 10th gen, didn't they?
Yeah,
So
they've made 10 iterations.
Dude, the integration is good.
It's cool. Yeah, I know.
And that's something that I think a lot of other motor manufacturers have missed. And it's why we've always liked Bosch. And it's only the recent gen Bosch stuff where they kind of caught up to having good integration with the Bluetooth mini remote, screen, etc., and the ability to put it in the top tube, what have you, if you did that. These guys are just bang out the box with all of that stuff there.
But it's crazy. It's almost like you look at this and go, isn't this surely where we should be at? Like Bluetooth's been around for how long?
Yeah, we should be here.
Bluetooth's been around for how long? It's been around for years and years and years. We have wireless everything else,
Touch screens on your cell phones, how long?
Yeah.
Forever.
Over 15 years.
Yeah.
And even so, if you scroll up on the website though, we're just looking at the DJI launch website, I was wondering if the efficiency of the motor was draining it. So you get 800 watt hours is only relative to the amount of power that the motor uses. But if you scroll up a little bit more, it actually gave sort of figures. So yeah, there we go. Provides 157 kilometers of riding range with the 800 watt hour and 117. We know those numbers will be higher than expected, but it's still.
Yeah, I mean, I go on that with a pinch of salt, man, because like it's the same with an EV. You can get 1,000 miles in a Tesla if you drive it at 20 miles an hour
down a hill.
Flat.
No one's going to get 157k riding at 1,000 watts.
That's like someone who weighs like 40 kilograms and they're riding a bike.
And also elevation. We're riding mountain bikes to come down, and we just want these e-bikes to take us up. So,
yeah, and you live in a place where there's plenty of up, and plenty of down.
You're spending a lot of time climbing up steep mountains. So
well, you had a little bit of time on it, not a huge amount, but you saw it. You could play with it. What did you think of the motor and the bikes? Let's not forget, it's not just a motor system. There's an entire e-bike that they've built.
Yeah, I think I was surprised at how like premium the frame looks, especially when we first saw it. The first thing that stood out to me was the carbon, like the fact it was the raw carbon weave like colorway, which I think looks like my favorite from.
Is it just raw? They had like a raw frame. Was it that?
Like
is
a
that
UD
like a
finish, or what kind of a finish was it?
It's like a gloss lacquer.
Yeah.
They've got it's
like a gloss
raw
UD
with a gloss lacquer, so you can see the weave underneath.
Yeah,
So
so it's a UD. They call it like a UD gloss. Yeah,
but
I wonder where they're making those. I'd be interested to know what factory they're using.
Yeah. I don't think they'll tell us. You'll share all your factories.
I'm just curious. And I wonder what their plan is with the bike brand that they've started, because it does look like a pretty good bike. And I thought it was interesting hearing one of the guys talking about it and saying they weren't trying to recreate the bike. They felt like they just chose a platform that was a functional platform, so that they got decent kinematics, had decent geo, etc. And so I wonder what their sort of long-term idea is with their bike brand. Do they focus on this? And how do manufacturers view that? Knowing that these guys who have this amazing system also have their own bike brand.
I think that they wanted just this bike to show off their system in the best possible way, because there are some examples of motor brands that have partnered with bike brands, and the bikes aren't. They're good, but they're not the best representation. I think what they've done with this is they've made, it looks like an Orbea Rise or a Specialized SL. They've made it slimline. They've made it aesthetically good enough to show their drive to it. But I think, speaking with them and reading between the lines, they want this system to be an OEM system. That's where the volume is. If you're selling it to a bike brand, you're selling hundreds, if not thousands at a time.
And it'll be a massive variation on spec and price point and travel and geometry. You put it in one bike, then you're really narrowing your
that's why I was curious,
field of view down. But it's not a bad looking bike.
Yeah, it's a good looking bike.
And again, it's quite interesting. I think they've gone 160, 150 on that.
Yeah.
It's kind of like the everyone bike.
Did they go trunnion mount on the shock?
Yes.
That's an interesting choice.
That's what some people were worried about. I saw in the comments that the
For that
yoke.
placement.
So take a look.
Yeah.
We'll just go back on here quickly. You can see it's a smaller shock actually.
Yeah.
I think it's a 185/55 maybe.
That's tiny.
It's
Short
quite
stroke. Well, the 185 seems small because it's trunnion, so that would normally be like a 205 or something.
Oh yeah, from eye to eye.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
that's a good point.
Does this mean that it's possible you won't be able to run a few coils on there?
I doubt you'd have the clearance. So if
Yeah.
you look where the trunnion mount is, you won't get the clearance from where the main body of that shock is to where a coil would be.
Yeah.
You'd be just grinding away the top
Top
tube.
of the frame.
Which is a shame.
But to give them, I'm going to hype this bike up, and then we can drill into playing devil's advocate.
It's an awesome looking
they've
bike,
come
honestly.
out with a bike that is a 160, 150, 1,000 watt, 120 newton meter, 600 watt hour battery, and that weighs 19.2 kilos.
So sick.
So that's
Insane.
like, why would you buy an SL type bike now, other than if
Done.
you love an SL, like you want to suffer? Why would you buy one over that? Like
Well,
you can
Yeah,
get,
no.
You can always run that in a lower power mode and suffer as much as you want.
yeah,
True.
yeah.
There's no point in buying an SL bike.
When
The thing is, though, psychologically, if you're in that pain cave and you're suffering and you've got the option to go more, isn't your finger just going to suddenly wiggle to this controls and you're going to push boost mode? There you go.
It's like me with candy, right?
He has just
Have
eaten
one and can't
3
get
candy
any more.
bars. So they've done a really good job. But as a brand, as somebody that makes bikes, what is your opinion of this? What are you thinking is good? What are your concerns? Because you must be thinking some.
Yeah, no,
what are
I
your
mean,
thoughts?
I think the numbers look great on paper. The integration looks really awesome. Like I said to you, they've, the screen, the Bluetooth remotes, the size of the motor. At the end of the day, this will boil down to performance and actually riding it and seeing how it feels
Yeah.
and where you get that power and what you have to do to get to the point where the motor is giving you that power. And then, honestly, like, how do they plan to support the customer? Like, what is where are you going to take this bike? Because, bike shops have relationships with all the other manufacturers already because they make other parts or they've been in the game for long enough. So, Bosch has an app. There's tons of local bike shops that sell other Bosch bikes. You can take those bikes to those shops if you need support. SRAM has a motor now. Obviously, they work with a ton of bike shops. Easy. What does DJI do? And I'm sure they've thought about this and they've got a great way to deal with it. But what is that? And you've got to take all of those things into consideration. And then can you set it up so you can remove the battery? How does the battery lock into place? Is it something that you as a bike brand has to design? Is it something they provide? Like, there's a huge number of questions, like the mounting points, how big the circumference is around the BB. The one thing about these sort of older looking full power motors is there's not a lot of material above and behind the BB. You go to even this TQ motor and you look at the amount of material around the BB, it's almost the same as a full power motor. That limits your positioning of chainstay length, pivot points, etc., because all of those points happen around this area, right? So if you've gone to concentric and it's got really big, that limits what you can do with chainstay length and stuff like that. So
that's fascinating because, again, a lot of kinematics would be based around a bracket pivot, where your cranks are, and that the position of the pivot points versus where your crank is key. So again, it's something you'd never even thought about. That's really, really fascinating to think about that.
Yeah, I think the service one is a massive piece as well, because one of the biggest considerations when buying a bike, especially a used e-bike, is like, what happens when it goes wrong? So they did say, I saw in a comment that they left, that they've got a DJI service partner network. Don't know what that is. I need to get some more clarification.
I'm sure they've thought
Maybe
about it.
Maybe it's a Curry's or a Best Buy. Like,
yeah. I'm sure they've thought about it. They're a huge company. To do what they've done, there's a lot of thought and engineering and time that's been spent on this, right? They had to have thought of, like, how we're going to support the customer. It's inevitable. So it's just them telling you what that is, really.
Yeah.
I doubt I'm going to get the answer to this question because no one ever wants to have this pitfall when they release a new product. But, like, in terms of diagnostics and warranty, is it standard 2-year warranty? Do they have an extended warranty? Is there a diagnostic tool on your phone? Do you have you have to
take it to a shop.
Yeah.
Like, how do they? Yeah.
He, Ferdy from DJI, was able to go into diagnostics on the display. So he had its touchscreen thing, and he put in this code, and all the diagnostics and background stuff
Just came up.
It's like going into system settings on your computer.
Can you then
Wow.
like do run command and do some weird stuff and start running different
SNES
stuff?
emulators and playing his Mega Drive.
Can it play Doom?
The Recharge podcast is sponsored by The Electric Bike Shop, the e-bike specialists. They've been selling e-bikes since 2017 from their first store in Bristol. And since then, they've rapidly grown from that single shop to now 10 stores across the UK, with more planned for 2024. The Electric Bike Shop supply a host of major e-bike brands, plus a ton of parts and accessories in stock. The Electric Bike Shop are highly reviewed by real customers, and they've achieved an excellent status on Trustpilot.com with hundreds of reviews. They offer free UK delivery, highly competitive pricing with price matching. They take part in the Cycle to Work scheme, and they carry literally thousands of e-bikes in stock for quick delivery. They also offer test rides where you can get hands-on with the bike so you can try different sizes. There's really nothing like getting on a bike and trying out the size for real to make sure you get the right bike size for you. So check them out at theelectricbikeshop.co.uk, where you can see the range, or you can even book a test ride direct from their website at one of their 10 nationwide stores. Thanks again to the Electric Bike Shop for sponsoring the Recharged podcast. So I've got a list of questions that I've just sent over to DJI, and I will list those questions in the comments down below. It's things like the warranty, service network, all of that stuff. So if and when they reply, I'll add it in there.
Here's another thing that's going to be interesting is they've obviously released these bikes and worked on these bikes. They're going to have those. I'm assuming people are going to be able to buy their bike, the Amflow bike. I wonder how long it's going to take for any other manufacturer to come out with a DJI bike, and then it's almost like lost the excitement because it's already been out for X number of months on some other bike. Like,
Yeah.
you know what I mean? If you're a manufacturer, you kind of want to have the new thing when the new thing gets released.
Yeah.
So I don't know how that's going to play out. It's going to be interesting.
Yeah.
Do you think they've done themselves a little bit of an early grave potentially?
I don't know that that's necessarily the truth. I don't know how many of these bikes they're going to make. Like you said, there's one travel option. People are going to want this in a different bike. So, but it's just it takes time to develop a bike, right? You've got to now build a relationship with that company. You've got to you've got to be at a point where you are ready to do your next bike. And then you've got to go away and spend a year doing that before you can come to market.
Yeah.
Now we're at Eurobike next year and guys are coming out with a DJI bike. And what else is coming out?
Sony release an e-bike motor, or Tesla.
Yeah. Do you know
Tesla
what I mean?
bring on out.
Let's go weird and wonderful. It's going to be like McDonald's releasing e-bike now. It's like someone else is jumping into the game. Food market. But
Here's the Big Mac.
But yeah, no. It's like they could. There's again, like the Pinion is a great example of this.
Yeah.
Because the Pinion MGU came out, and I went, well, we're never going to see it on a bike. How many bikes are actually going to release it? It took them 6 months. I think the first bikes released in January.
But they
and it was
were-
Eurobike release.
And they were also already working with partners before they announced it.
4 key partners, wasn't it, Ruben?
Yeah.
Rob. And again, now we're going to start seeing it coming
Seeing
on
them.
other stuff, and how it's going to filter into the normal bike catalog or bike portfolio of most brands. But Rob was saying that it's. What I was saying was that a lot of the Pinion bikes were all just like 160 or less. So it's how is the bike positioned on the market? Now Nikolai have got the option to put longer travel on them, but not being sold like that. So does this have the same fate as the DJI? We're not going to see anything for 6 months to a year until it actually starts coming out on other bikes.
And we can't get Pinion in the US yet because they don't have all their certification done. So
Come on, Pinion.
I actually know the guys who will be distributing Pinion in the US, and we can't do it yet. So like if we wanted a Pinion bike, we're like 2 years behind the ball.
But then in 2 years, we're going to see a Crestline MGU.
And it's like, are people even going to be excited about it at that point? Unless you can time it up again where Pinion has a really big update or there's some nice improvements or a Gen 2 or something. That's when I think it makes sense, especially as a small brand, to go, okay, cool, we're going to do one of those bikes. I mean, we love the idea of the gearbox, but I have to believe other people are working on that too. So who knows?
Totally.
Who's
I've
gonna
just
have
got some answers from DJI actually whilst we've been talking. So one of the questions was the pricing for their Amflow bike. So they're saying the entry level is 6 to 7K. I assume that's pounds.
Yeah.
Top model around 10K. And I asked about support. So they've actually got a whole support site live already with videos and stuff and warranty. So they're saying 2 years, frame is 5 years. What's the important part on the actual motor?
Handbar and wheels 2 years, accessories 1 year. I mean, they've covered it all.
They're saying you need to contact the after sales team or go to a local dealer, and it's coming out early October for UK, DE, Germany, AU, Australia. Yeah. So there is, I don't know, I guess it's 2 years standard 24-month warranty.
And spec wise, so we've obviously seen the video that you put out, you and Will did at Eurobike, which is amazing. The one we've seen a lot of is the one with factory forks. So it's got Kashima coated 36 and a Kashima coated Float X with T-type transmission and Magura brakes. Am I correct? Has it
Yes.
was it Gustavs or what brakes are on there?
No, they're Magura MT7.
MT7, so a decent brake. But then the spec below that, I think I saw a silver frame that had Fox 36 performance, a Float, not a Float X performance rear shock.
Yeah, so there you go. Interesting. Like
similar mode names to some other brands, or like a combo of things, right? They have auto, they have do they have boost, or do they have?
They do. So they have eco, auto, trail, boost, but the auto mode, they say they're using gyros in the motor as well, so it knows when you're pointing up or knows when you're pointing down.
And that's auto power output, so it'll change its torque and boost and peak wattage dependent. So will it change to the overrun mode? Like the overdrive mode?
No, doubt it. Yeah. I think you need to still apply
press
that
the button.
Yeah,
you gotta keep spamming that button.
Yeah, but I mean,
it's gonna get worn out,
the app, the app's really good. From what we saw, it's got like you walk up to your bike and it unlocks the bike. You walk away, it locks it. You have to put PIN code in. You can send alerts. It's got GPS built into it, and the charger, it can charge to 75% in 1.5 hours. It's like a 12 amp charger that it comes with as well.
So this is the crazy thing is we're talking all this stuff like it's mind blowing, like blah blah blah. You can check where your bike is. And
they've done this all before though. It makes sense, right? Because they've been working on drones with batteries, with chargers, with
I've crashed my DJI drone and gone, where is it? And found the last location, walked up a hillside. But it all this stuff, as much as it's revolutionary on bikes, it's like this is kind of should be the industry standard though. If you've got an e-bike, it should have some sort of
those chainsaws look a bit short for Rob, eh?
They are 445,
and they're like,
can Jimmy make me a link for that?
You should go, why are you promoting that? Come on now. It's too short. But like there's a lot of things involved where you're like, wow, that's great. But I feel like there's a lot of things like touchscreen, like we said, it's been out for a long time. Bluetooth components, it's been out for a long time.
I mean, I think it is stuff that is cool, and it's like, why not have it? We should have it. It's available. Just do it.
Yeah, I'm
don't know that it's
giving
going to
hell
change
to other brands for not doing it than I am for giving DJI the credit for doing it.
No, I mean, I agree, but it is also like, we ride mountain bikes at the end of the day too. So yeah, it's going to come down to the experience of riding the bike. And I don't know if like I would make a choice on a bike based off of it should just be the standard, but if
doesn't make it ride better.
If it didn't have it, I would be like, sure, it doesn't have a touchscreen, but I mean, I don't know how many times I would touch the screen in a ride anyway.
I think what it should do is, I said this in one of the videos, it is healthy to have competition, and it will get other brands to think a bit different and not just put on plasticky LED things and think, oh, that's good enough. Yeah. Now they've seen DJI do it. Bosch might be like, damn, that's a really good implementation. Maybe we should try something like that. So
waiting for that Neuralink connection. Just don't even need a screen. You just do it all in your head.
Oh, don't even go there. But all of this innovation just helps. So yeah, that was a cool product. It was great to see, and
really exciting.
Fair play to DJI for releasing that. And there's no doubt all sorts of different things that will go on to, and it'll be interesting to see where it goes to. The second thing that we saw, and we did some videos on, is ZF's new motor. Now, we speculated about what ZF might do.
Can I have a pause here and just say, I called it.
You got it right.
Small motor. The lady was holding it in the image, in the press release. Small motor, really punchy. It wasn't an MGU. It wasn't anything like that. I just wanted to say it here and now on record. I called it.
Give him a clap. Give him a sympathy clap.
No, not the actual, just an actual.
Perfect. Nice one, Will. Put him in his place.
So they released ZF. I had no idea who ZF were, but they are one of the biggest automotive industry players, like along with Bosch. They they're not necessarily a consumer brand, so that's probably why I didn't hear of them. But people that are into motors and gearboxes and high performance cars and stuff, they exist in lots of high end cars. Porsche, they worked in Le Mans, they worked with Formula One, and the ZF 8-speed, or I can't remember exactly what it is, but it's the shit basically. It's the one that you want in your car.
They had something to do with the Zeppelin as well. Like,
so do they do a
since the
PDK
1900s.
in Porsches?
What is it? Sorry,
PDK.
I don't know, but they're in some Porsches.
Okay.
We can fact check it and find out what it is. But anyway, they're a massive motor brand. They work in marine, loads of different industries, truck, aerospace, all that stuff. So they're a big player, but they've never been a consumer brand. So seeing them release a consumer product branded ZF was super interesting. So they've come out with a 90 Newton meter compact motor you can literally fit in your hand. This is not the ZF, this is the TQ, but it's a similar kind of design, the sine wave they call it. So it doesn't work on, you've not got different gears connected to the cranks, which means it's really silent. There's no clatter, there's no
it works
backlash.
in a similar way to the TQ in like the harmonic pin method, but we won't say harmonic pin because that's probably
That's a
TQ
thing.
That's a TQ thing, yeah.
I'm not an engineer, so I don't know the exact details behind it. I just know it's a very similar design. And I think the way that it operates is similar. Yeah. But it's 90 Newton meters and it is up to 600 watts. It is very small and very compact. So going back to your point, Troyden, when you're talking about this motor here, it looks like there's less space around that, like what would be heading towards a chainstay.
Yeah.
So I think it might be easier. They claim it's easy to package. And the way it bolts in, where it doesn't bolt in, it's sat on a cradle. So there's no bolt mounts on it. So it's like there's like a brace that bolts into the bottom of the frame.
And then it sits in that.
Yes.
But does that not mean the whole thing could rotate?
It has to clip into that cradle properly. There's got to be some kind of points that latch in.
That's what I was thinking. That sounds crazy. I didn't even think about it. There's no physical mounting points on the motor itself.
Pink Bike did a really good little short, and I'll show you because they captured it really well.
What I wanted to say though is, in to Troyden's point, which is really interesting, is aftermarket support. Now, I have more fear about ZF than DJI, being that they aren't, they're kind of classically OEM. They don't have that consumer front. So I think their relationship with the brand that they spec it on has to be tight because that brand is going to have to basically carry them.
Yeah.
And what brand were they on bikes wise?
Here you go. Sorry, just to interrupt.
Oh yeah,
that's
nice.
how it mounts in. So
holy.
So there's got to be something that stops it from rotating. On
there's a
so
little
there's something that
notch.
latches in. Yeah,
There's a little
notches in. Yeah.
and that kind of holds the torque.
Oh man, it's not touchscreen, is it? It's just some basic LED thing.
Screen on the stem alert.
Well, there you go. When you see, but when you see that, doesn't it look old now?
Yeah.
After seeing the DJI and seeing the touch screen and the big screen, it looks like it's
a little dated,
almost a generation back, maybe.
Yeah.
Which is a shame because I think what they've done is pretty revolutionary.
So we tried it. We had it for a couple of days, and it was interesting because comparing it almost back to back with the DJI is, like we've mentioned it a million times, really powerful. This one on paper isn't as powerful, but funnily enough, low down, it felt to me, could be wrong, but it felt a little bit more powerful. Like on the initial pedal kick, you could the wheel would lift. Like it was crazy, wasn't it?
You looked like you had the most fun on that bike out of everything. You were like laughing every time you rode it.
That was the
ZF.
Raymond. Was it Raymond Tarek or something, wasn't it? Yeah.
Raymond Tarek. So they've almost got the programming the other way round. So on the initial kick down, even at super low RPM, it's giving you this insane amount of power. Whereas the DJI, you spin up and it's like,
but does the ZF teeter off at the top end, or is it pretty consistent throughout?
It's difficult because you get to 25 miles an hour on the flat or
That's
KPH
so
really quickly. So it's very difficult. You can't do a proper test at Eurobike. You need a big, chunky hill, mountain, techie climb to go up.
That is an interesting thing too, though, what you mentioned about when you get to a high cadence. So I would imagine that this Bosch motor at a much higher cadence starts to like taper
flatten off the curve, yeah.
And something like the DJI might just keep going. Because, sometimes you're like, drop a bunch of gears to start getting up a pretty steep climb, and you'll spin, and you know you're going to slow down really quickly because it's really steep. And on the Bosch, often you're like, oh, there's nothing, and then it slows down, and then it starts kicking in. Right? So all of these things are these little nuances that, you know, you got to ride these things and really see what they're like.
Because I'd kind of say that was a bit like the Shimano. Shimano didn't have much grunt, and mid area was really like decent and punchy, and then it teetered off at the top to give you that natural feel. I think that was the whole thing, is like you would have more power in your legs, not when you're starting off and not when you're at the top spinning out, but in that mid, I've got power cadence.
When they say natural feel, it means running out of power.
Yeah, basically. I'm not necessarily the biggest
or you
fan
hit
of it,
the speed limit.
Yeah.
It's like the low power motors are very natural feelings. They've got not much power.
Here's a question for you.
Yeah.
From two gentlemen who have ridden the ZF and the TQ motor. Do they have similarities in how they feel?
No, they're almost totally different.
No, that's fine. No, I'm just curious.
yeah.
Just I'm throwing out my thoughts and ideas here, but so essentially looks the same, but
that's a great example of two motors that are quite similar in weight. Obviously, the DJI has them beat on the numbers and output of power, but when you rode them, you have these like two quite different.
Yeah. I actually think, now again, this is going back to say it's only at Eurobike. There's only limited amount of stuff you can test there, and the ZF was only in a car park. But I've also ridden enough motors to understand how they deliver the power and can pretty much tell the difference just through experience, like any of you riding e-bikes a lot. Now, I think that the ZF might be better at techie climbs. You know, when you're like going up, you see a little rock, you've got to get over it, you've got to put a little blap of power in. It's got a nice amount of overrun. Like the Bosch race, you can almost do this like ratchet thing where you don't give it a full crank, you just kick down a little bit, the wheel spins up. Whereas a DJI feels like it might be not quite as punchy, but if you're just doing a drag race, the DJI might just like start ripping away. Bit like I don't know, it's probably not the right analogy, but sometimes when you see electric cars versus petrol cars on drag races, like a GT3 RS versus a Tesla will like take off initially, but then
the other one will come.
Yeah, so not the greatest analogy because they're both e-bike motors, but it's where they deliver the power.
With this ZF, an EDR, EDRE, whatever you want to call it, would that be a competitor of Bosch?
For sure.
Really?
Yeah.
It felt so powerful, bro. Like,
it felt more.
Can you? Because you can talk technical. Troy, you haven't ridden it.
No.
Will, can you just give me like, even if it is like a Loris Vergier,
I just did then.
but like the whole experience of riding one in the car park.
I think you just loop out the back, probably.
Is it really that
Yeah.
like compared to Pinion MGU?
Yeah, more powerful. And the Pinion's like 160. Do you know what? The funny thing is, right? Little sneak peek here, or a little bit behind the scenes. We did the video, and Will and I went in all proud to show the video before it went live, just to like fact check it, make sure I hadn't made any errors, which I had. But I said in the video, oh, this feels way more than 90 Newton meters and 600 watts. And one of the engineers went, because it is.
Yeah.
But they're going out and saying.
Same.
Yeah.
It's this whole peak wattage, because it was always like, oh, you can't have a motor that's more than 250 watts peak, or like it has to be average or something like that. There was always these hiding of numbers for regulations and for being able to pass laws and all the rest of it.
But I think with this, it's like they don't want to advertise it as too much, because to your point, we were chatting in the last podcast about having too high a travel bike. Some people see it as it's too out there. So maybe it is more than...
People are snapping chains on normal full power motors now.
Yeah.
I think what's going to happen with these?
It is also in German cars as well, like with the new Volkswagen Golf R and stuff. They always underquote the power.
The 0 to 60 as well.
I think it's something to do with they're like, oh, we'll say our car has similar power to another car, and then we'll just toast it on a race. So and then people will buy that.
Yeah.
It's similar. Like they're in the same field as all the other motors, but it feels way better. So you buy that one, right?
Yeah. That's a good point.
And
we need to do a drag race.
How it deals out the power felt natural. You weren't like, for example, like a Panasonic versus a Bosch. Panasonic doesn't feel quite as refined. It felt smooth. There was
Depends on what mode. Like in the top mode, it felt like wild. Like honestly, that's how wild. That's how wild it felt. Like I just kicked it down when we were coming to record the video, and the back just lifted up, bouncing in the air.
Sick.
Maybe they tuned it because they knew we were going to ride it.
Overrun? Because I know that the DJI has Overrun option.
Yeah.
This
So-
is Overrun. And then I think integration. Like, what's the integration? Like, who makes the other parts?
So Overrun, so we asked about Overrun, and a really great gentleman called Kieran Page has been working with ZF. Now, Kieran, because a lot of people think that these e-bike companies just release a motor and they don't have a lot of background in actually riding bikes, but couldn't be further from the truth. Most motor companies hire or work with athletes long before they're released. So Kieran was or is a professional racer. He's got some road stuff. He's decorated. Look,
Yeah.
he's
lot of road
track
stuff.
cycling. He rides bikes. Lives in the south of France. Anyway,
He rides road bikes.
and mountain bikes.
Okay.
So he rode bikes. Anyway, he's a very competent rider. Anyway, he's also somebody that helps the UCI with rules and regulations and Overrun. So he knows everything about how much they're allowed to put in for Overrun. And
You've just put a target on this man's head.
He adjudicates in the UCI for the EEDR.
Did they add that?
What's that?
Because, I mean, like, before Bosch did it, I don't know, did they have that in the ruling? Or did Bosch do it and they were like, hey, we better add a rule about this? Because someone could just have a ridiculously long overrun.
Probably. So they've probably at some point added it. So anyway, there's 2 meters you're allowed of overrun. They right now have 1.4 in the standard version of the ZF, which is more than the standard Bosch.
Do we know what the standard Bosch is?
I think it's 1 meter.
1 meter.
And the race is 2 meters.
That's the CX performance motor, not the race motor.
SX.
So just to clarify, the standard Bosch motor is 1 meter.
Yeah.
The race motor is 2 meters.
And the ZF CentriX is 1.4.
1.4, but they said they can easily up it to 2. They don't want to do it right now because to get the race motor, you really are like, you're an enthusiast, aren't you? Probably. It's a little bit more of a premium bike that you're buying. You know what you're going to get.
I didn't actually know the regular Bosch motor had any overrun.
It does have a little bit.
1 meter.
Yeah, so if you're in the
I'm looking
EMGB
for
mode,
4 or 5 meters.
10 meters, and it's a throttle bike that you start with your pedal.
hey, we've been talking about electric motors recently,
Oh,
so
no.
maybe an electric motor brand from Crestline.
They said they didn't want anyone smashing themselves up in a car park and stuff, and I
You know
can
what it
see that
is?
happening.
It is kind of, it can be dangerous, the overrun.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, I've had it trigger on me in some unexpected situations.
Even like in the middle
just
of a
off a
corner.
drop or like, yeah.
So what they're saying with their overrun is it depends on the speed, that they put more emphasis on. It wasn't just a default, anytime you touch it, it's going to give you the full overrun. It depends on the speed. They've
Situation.
got these new sensors that are using these Hall sensors. So
Horse sensors.
it looks like a mini disc rotor. And it's got like 50 sensor points in it.
Yes,
so it's
I
not
saw
like a
that.
magnet. So the Bosch has one magnet on it and it relies on a full rotation. So you know when you put it in walk mode sometimes, you have to give it like a, oh, go on,
Yeah.
like, and then it starts kicking in. That's because it's waiting for the magnet to go around once. And if you're just after it, you have to give it a little bit more of a push because it needs that sensor. Whereas theirs has got,
Kind of like an ABS thing would be.
looks exactly like the ABS sensor. So theirs has got over 50
Points.
so they call it like a high resolution
yeah,
sensor.
you can see that every aspect of the ride characteristics as you're going through that rotation. Well, that's super cool. Like again, like I was going to ask about magnets and controller units and that kind of thing.
Yeah.
Batteries.
So the motor performance is phenomenal, I think. The tech in it's really good. I think there's an opportunity missed maybe on the battery and the screen and the control, if I'm being totally honest. The battery, because DJI have released their high capacity battery and Bosch have got their 400 battery in the SX, I think a lot of stuff now is like if you make a really well designed battery with the latest generation of cells and package it really well, you can save quite a bit of weight, like half a kilo on a battery pack. So their 750 battery is still like over 4 kilos, which is, it could be lighter.
Yeah, that's probably like numbers from about 2-3 years ago in terms of battery size. We've seen in the last year like a big jump in battery tech.
Yeah, the energy density. And then the screen, it's kind of like if that was my bike, I'd probably take the screen off because it's in a place that's like right in the center of the bars. And like how you've got it on the Crestline, the current gen is great because it's in the top tube and it's discreet,
Safe.
it's out the way, safe, it's there if you need it.
You're not going to crash and get the print of your face on the screen, the imprint of your face as you smash
Or you turn
down
your
there.
bike upside down and
Oh, that's a good point.
Yeah.
it's just
Yeah.
on the screen.
And then the remote is quite chunky, and it is a cabled remote. So that stuff, I think, could be better. I think with ZF, the key tech is in the motor.
Yeah,
like
motor
that's,
looks good.
That's where the motor like kicks ass. It's super punchy, really powerful, overrun, silent, no rattle, like nothing. You can pick it up, slam it down, no
Quiet.
rattle at all. And I'm guessing that they've used partners to help develop the batteries and things, and there's still, some way to go on those.
How was the DJI with rattle?
I heard rattle in the DJI. Yeah.
Called them out
Yeah.
here and now.
I think I saw that in another video too. Someone mentioned it a little bit of
Can't
rattle.
be that perfect, can it? Like, there's got to be some
Yeah,
sort of
there's
downfall somewhere.
But when I did sorry to interrupt, when I did the pick it up and slam it down, Ferdy from DJI said that they've made a refinement to it. So it won't quite be as loud. Who knows? I'll have the bike next month, but it's definitely, you can't have it all right.
Yeah,
With
yeah.
motor
No,
design,
They're taking the feedback as well. Like they've obviously listened to people
Well,
themselves.
something
and checking
interesting to talk about with that kind of a sound. Everyone complained about the Shimano motor being noisy and making a
EPA
rattle,
01
right?
clutch rattle.
Everyone knows that the Bosch has got a bit of a rattle too. I feel like less people have complained about that.
I think the Bosch rattle is more like a clunk, and the Shimano EP8 is a rattle.
Yeah,
Okay.
It's more
Shimano
like
EPA sounds like something's loose, but it's a clutch disengaging. Whilst the Bosch one, it's like a mechanical, like like even when you click it backwards, it's the ratcheting. It's like it feels like it's mechanical parts just
It's the
moving
same
into
thing.
place.
The concept is the same.
Same.
It's
Oh no, I
backlash.
agree. No, I know, but the sounds sound different.
But after riding a Bosch race motor, I think the race motor's noisier personally, I don't know, but after riding it and then riding a quiet bike, you're like, damn, it's so nice
It is
riding
one
a
thing,
silent bike.
Yeah, I think the ZF's got time to go, but more importantly, Pinion MGU. This isn't there wasn't a one trick pony. They've done something else at Eurobike, didn't they? It was only released a year ago, and they've just done a big update on it, which I think, Rob, they probably listened to your video because it sounds like all the things you called out on it.
So the Pinion MGU, crazy. It's a year old now. To your point, like we've hardly seen it in any bikes, have we?
But it's only been on bikes available for 6 months. And I wanted to ask the same question before ZF actually was. Currently, it's only Raymond who are the launch partner.
No D.
Raymond, sorry.
Everybody loves Raymond.
Raymond. Raymond. Did they have announced any other launch partners or any other people who are going to come on board coming in the near months? It's just Raymond so far.
I'm hoping we saw when we were there a prototype intense downhill bike with the Pinion, not MGU, but the Pinion drivetrain, like belt drive.
Okay.
So I'm hoping that Intense are going to bring out
An MGU.
an MGU e-bike, but that'd be cool.
good.
see.
That'd be good.
Could see, yeah.
But with the
US
did you say
regulations.
ZF?
Yeah, ZF.
It was in a Bergamont as well, which we don't get over here.
No, again, it's a weird kind of smaller brand. The last thing I saw about Bergamont were Eddie Masters' downhill team before he went to Pivot. He was riding for Bergamont.
Okay.
But he had to pull the team together. So
Saying that though, there's loads of brands in Germany. You go to Eurobike and these brands have got the biggest stands you've ever seen, like Bulls.
Bulls,
Their
Simplon,
stand
they're
was
huge.
So we might think of them as weird
No,
little
but
brands, but they're
Bergamont,
big.
Bergamont isn't that big. I know
Yeah.
that for a fact.
Okay.
I'm going to get called out here, damn
Right.
it.
So the Pinion. So the Pinion MGU came out in Eurobike last year. It again was one of those motors that not many people were expecting, but they came out and they landed with a big splash because motor gearbox unit. Like everyone signed up to the concept, regardless of whether or not it's ready for prime time. I think the concept of motor gearbox units all in one appeals to a lot of people. Not everybody, but appeals to a lot of people. But when we tested it in Finale, it was missing Overrun.
Yep.
So when you're on the techie climbs, when you stop pedaling, it just stopped dead and you just fell over side. Well, I did anyway. I fell over side. How many times?
Will's got a video of him falling over, clipped in sideways.
So the edit looks like I'm clearing that power stage climb in one go. I didn't. It took like at least 7 or 8, maybe more.
But now with Overrun,
But now with Overrun, so the concept of Overrun, for anybody that doesn't know, is when you stop pedaling, momentarily the motor propels you forward. So the legal amount is 2 meters. Don't quite think it's got 2 meters. I would say it's just got a little bit of extra Overrun, but it's better than no Overrun. So that's one key feature. And the second is it now has Will's favourite e-bike
my
feature
God.
that is auto shift.
can we get a clap or an air horn, something?
Auto shift. So the bike, but okay, so to be fair to Pinion, when I met with Dirk from Pinion, he does their marketing, he was like, look, it's not for everybody. Like when you're driving a rally car, you want to be a manual. You want to feel the gear shift. You want to pick the exact time
to stop, start. Yeah,
exactly. And he was like, "Look, when you're riding down a trail, you're not going to be using auto shift." So he went out and he said, "We've got it in there, but it's not going to be for every single ride." And I was like, "Oh, that's fair, man. You're not saying it's going to be."
Sense.
Yeah. It's not like he feels like the rest of the market who went auto shift, like this is going to revolutionize things. It's like it's a cool extra that you can just be added with firmware, and you don't need to buy a new drive chain.
No,
essentially, like a SRAM or a Shimano, you need to have a Di2 for it to work with the motor. This is just like, obviously it's
That's the
I
cool
think
thing.
auto shift is so hard though. Like, how is this thing going to predict where you need to be? I get
it doesn't
like
predict. That's the problem.
so I get like coast shifting. I think that's awesome.
Makes so much
Right.
sense. Yeah.
Love to have coast shifting, but if you're coming down a super fast section into a big G-out and then a quick climb, your auto shift is going to be all over the place.
It will never know.
It's going to drop to the like a really hard gear as you're coming down this hill, and as you go through the dip and you start pedaling, it's going to start clunking over to try and get you.
Yeah, it's going to rip a mech apart. And then
Yeah.
we said this
So-
before. It's like unless you've got cameras or sensors or you linked it
It's
to
too much.
Strava, it's not going to be able to do those things.
Look, we can't even get touchscreens on bikes, let alone like. Will, what is your thought on auto shift? Because you've ridden probably more
You
than
love it.
anyone.
Come on,
I think- I think-
every podcast.
Please,
I
please.
think I think it could be good for commuter bikes.
Actually, the reason I ask him is because he hates it. but to be honest with you, he's probably ridden more auto shift systems than anyone. He's ridden the Shimano one, the SRAM one.
They are cool.
What else have you ridden?
Pinion one now.
I didn't get to ride the Pinion one.
Oh, sorry about that.
There's something cool about them for sure. Like I know, like I was with Kyle from Transition. We went on a ride and their SRAM bike came out, and he was like, "I'm going to do the whole ride in auto shift," and he did the whole ride in auto shift. Yeah.
Nice.
Badly.
But I've got to
No,
say,
it was fun.
so the auto shift on the flat, again, we're talking about Eurobike flat car park. You
Yeah.
can set the cadence you want the bike to match your gears to. So on the screen, you just hold down. So there's two parts to auto shift on there. It says full auto shift, you just leave it in it, or there's auto shift pro, which means you can toggle it on or off. So if you're riding on a flat, boring fire road, you can't be bothered, you just want to pedal, you can say, just keep me at a cadence of 75, 80, 85 or whatever, up to like, you've got a big range. And it will just shift for you to keep you in that gear. Then when you get to the trailhead, you hold down the trigger for like 4 or 5 seconds, then it turns it off. And then you're in regular manual mode. So you kind of got like...
Do you like being at the same cadence all the time when you're
If
pedaling
I'm
a fire
just...
road?
Yeah, I normally spin at like 80, 85.
Don't you like to like sometimes stand a bit, put in a hardy gear, get off the saddle?
Do a wheelie.
Do you not like to live a little bit?
No, I'm just curious. I'm curious because, like, honestly, with e-bikes, I have found like when I moved to e-bikes, I was like, holy shit, I'm just sitting like a lot, you know, on those long climbs. And so I try to consciously like change gears, get up, stand up for a bit, like change the cadence so that I'm not just at one, you know.
Oh,
I probably do. I probably
Yeah.
just don't even
notice.
think about it. I
Yeah,
probably
yeah.
just ride and then put the saddle down, put the saddle up.
Yeah.
I think I probably do. Yeah, I think it's one of those things that they could just do it. It's a software update
Yeah,
to
yeah,
their
it's
thing.
cool.
You don't need any more hardware. It's a cool thing. Like for the small amount of people that have the Pinion MGU, I'm guessing not many people own it. Their bike is now better than it was 6 months ago when
Yeah,
they
they
got
have
it,
another
which is-
option.
which is cool.
And like I said
Yeah.
before, it's a software update. You don't need to buy new hardware. It's nothing like that. The fact that you
Great.
get a rolling change, it gives you more option. And that's the benefit of having something that's a full drive unit, as in a
and
drive chain and a motor and a battery system.
And they're going to refine this.
Oh, 100%.
And if it's just software, they can keep refining it, you know.
100%.
Moving on to other motors, I thought it was really funny that lots of brands are trying to not share stuff about upcoming motor systems. There was
Neoprene
reason I say
sleeves
this-
over everything. It's prototypes.
wow. So there was at least 2 bikes that Will and I saw. We were walking past them, and I noticed loads of tape hanging off the motor area. I was like, if this tape wasn't there, I wouldn't have noticed it. Anyway, you get a closer look
Maybe
at
they
this
did
motor.
that on purpose.
Maybe it's a
To get your attention.
pretty good tactic. So this is what appears to be a new generation Bosch motor. So it's basically what looks like a Bosch. It's a Bosch motor because it's got Bosch plate on it, and it's got sticky tape all around the side. So they're trying to hide something. If you look a bit closer, you can see it's only 2 motor bolts that hold the bike into the frame.
Did you not peel the tape off?
It's obvious. Like, I mean, come on. If you're trying to hide something, just like
I wonder what Bosch does to those brands. Like, what did they get a slap on the wrist or like what?
I don't know. Maybe
what
it just
happens?
helps with the hype. Like if you're Bosch and ZF and DJI get a load of hype, and then you get some coverage because you've got a motor with tape on it. Is it good?
It wasn't on the Bosch stand though, was it?
No.
It was on other brand stand.
Yeah.
So maybe DJI did what they did, and then Bosch people were like, quickly, speak to the brands, get your bikes out. Come on, let's do something. Get the hype going. We've got to pull them out. Bulls, you've got one of our bikes. Get it
It
out.
was Bulls.
Of course it's Bulls. They
sold
had
them out.
Yeah. Sorry, Bulls. We don't get
was
you
on
this
display.
country.
No more Bosch motors for you guys.
It was on display. It was actually front and center on display, and it's the
So they've got it on the podium, stood up in the lights, shining there,
So
and then they've got tape on it.
Here's the interesting thing. I saw, I believe, maybe a different YouTube video of someone, and you saw the motor, it didn't have tape on it. So I feel like somebody realized, and then they added the tape.
I think you're right. I'll show you, and we'll share this on the screen. But I'll show you my pictures that I found of it because it's.
I think I saw them in your stories.
Yeah.
Yeah, it wasn't even taped well though. It was like little bits of
But
electrical
it's
tape
like,
around.
surely you would just put a neoprene sock on, or you would cover the mounting points.
Or you
right?
take
Or
off
something.
or you take off the badge.
Put the bike in the back, around the back.
Jordan, may I ask you if you're aware of this mystery Bosch motor that we're talking about?
I say nothing. My lips are sealed.
But I thought that was really funny. But Bosch did come out with some other updates at Eurobike. So they came out with a couple of software updates, but also Autoshift. Will.
It wasn't
brand.
exclusively Bosch though, was it?
We need a sound effect for that.
Will, another brand are coming out with Autoshift. Bosch and TRP are partnering together to bring out
can't
Autoshift,
wait
especially
to
for
try
Will.
it.
Give us a
Give us the air horns.
Wrong button. I don't know what I'm pushing.
So I think they have to do something to compete with the other brands. Like Shimano have got Autoshift, SRAM have got Autoshift, but Bosch
Should be beeping this.
But Bosch don't have a drivetrain business, so to speak. So they've partnered with, I don't know a lot about it because I've not seen it, but like they partnered with TRP, right? So so now there's automatic shifting. It looks like the TRP is an electronic drivetrain. The power
Powered
goes,
by the Bosch.
But
yeah.
So does that now mean that Bosch has an affiliation with a drivetrain brand? So are we less likely to see like a Bosch MGU because they've got like Shimano obviously affiliated with their drive units and their drive chains. You've got SRAM obviously with their drive chains. Does now mean that if you want to get a Bosch, they're all going to come TRP?
No, because if you look at ABS, they work with Magura on ABS. But if you buy like a Crestline,
but Magura are part of their distribution. They are partnered as a company.
I think it's the same. Yeah, they're owned by the
same company. So does that now mean TRP are within that portfolio? I don't know.
I think they're just separate. I just think to me it's like if you're an OEM and you want to have Autoshift on a Bosch bike, you've now got a solution. Would you like as a brand?
I mean,
does it bother you?
I've been thinking about it, but I just, for the people buying our bike, I'm not sure that Autoshift is at the top of the list.
Yeah.
So I'll let that kind of figure itself out.
If you need a test pilot for Autoshift, please. I'm sorry.
Send me Will's number.
Auto shift extreme, downhill auto shift, and see how that goes.
I think you need to do like a video on all the different auto shifts, and we can get Will the bikes, and we'll
maybe can we convince the biggest hater of Autoshift that it's good? Yeah.
Oh, and I think the Pinion might be one of the ones.
I think honestly though, for commuting, Autoshift is great.
No, it's cool. I think Autoshift just feels like a box that every brand needs to tick now.
Yeah.
Like you've got to have it on there because otherwise you're missing out a key feature. It's like, you can adjust your mode settings. You can go eco, I want to dial that up or whatever. It's just another tick in the box.
Yeah.
Who's it for, whatever. You get a Bosch motor on a commuter bike, on a cargo bike, and on a mountain bike, and they're exactly the same motor. It's just a configuration around it. So they've got to cover the market, essentially.
And they've done it.
I'm convinced that Bosch will be working on a MGU type. They've got no drivetrain business to cannibalize. I don't know anything. If I did, I wouldn't be able to say anything. But no doubt the big players, ZF, we found some patents from ZF a few weeks ago, and they've got patents for planetary motor gearbox units all in one. So, people no doubt
are obviously working on that stuff. Man. I mean, it just makes sense if it's done well.
And just to wrap up, because there was so much at Eurobike, but like there's only a few things that we can cover. There was so many little bits of cool tech and innovation, but some cool things we saw. Intend brakes. We showed off the Intend fork and shock the other day, but they've got Intend Trinity, like downhill and gravity brakes, but they're bringing out a trail brake as well. It's got like a mini kind of a smaller caliper. The feel of those Inten brakes is insane. The free stroke is the smallest by far that I've ever felt.
And very light leather feel? Or?
Very light, like the haze. You know, the haze on
the haze are insane.
Really good.
It's like
so
nothing, and then suddenly you get that bite, and it's like, whoa, where'd
So
that power
light.
come from? Yeah.
And we're going to have a whole section of our next video explaining, because you spoke to Maxia Intent.
Yes.
So it's going to be a little section in the next vid.
Yeah,
Oh,
showing
nice.
their forks, and they actually are working with a carbon manufacturer who are able to lay up carbon by machine.
Is
Which
that
is really
what I
cool.
saw the Intend fork, the same one that you've got, the Flash, is it? But with
Yes.
the carbon upper, with the carbon.
So it's wound. It's like carbon wound by machine, so they can make it at much higher volumes and with precision. So we were talking in another podcast about different people have slightly different skill sets and maybe different methods slightly. So one carbon frame is not going to be exactly the same as another one just because it's a natural process, whereas the machine is a machine.
every
So
time.
it's like able to replicate it.
1 mil tolerance or
Yeah.
something. So you don't have to worry about John being hungover from the day before. You've got the machine to do it. The machine don't get hungover.
And the
Great.
machine just carries on non-stop. But
Keeps
it was
going.
like 2 kilos for this fork. So it's an upside down fork, same as the Flash, that's stiffer, and 2 kilos, which it saves like 250 grams for a carbon fork. It's not cheap, but it's a cool piece of tech.
Yeah.
And then Feedback had bought an e-bike standout.
This is a bit of me there. A little, but it's not just any old e-bike stands, because you've got Park 201, you've got loads of other brands, these huge clunky things that have a massive chunky motor thing on them. This is like a tiny little like mobile unit. It's like literally is probably, I don't know, the width probably like 46 centimeters wide, and it literally is just a stand. You push it on the floor and it comes up. Genius. You can put your bike on and it rises from the floor rather than picking it up from the top.
Did we see this?
Great.
We did go past it, yeah.
I don't remember this.
You also
Yeah.
don't care about
Nah, I
fixing
don't care about
bikes.
stands, to be honest.
Feedback had a decent stand at a decent booth at Eurobike with all their stands in.
Yeah.
And we should probably mention Orange, who British manufacturer, had some loads of bikes
Adam
on the
really
stand.
wanted to talk about
Yeah, I
this,
want to
right?
talk about they launched 5 bikes. Now, from an e-bike perspective, there's one really, really cool one, which is the one with the InterDrive. I can't remember it, but they really launched 5 bikes. It's a big number for a company that was just about to go under. They all look the same.
No, they don't. The Stage 6 looks different, doesn't it?
Okay, it's one of 5.
Okay, one of 5.
One of 5. I don't know. I just find it like,
Are they all orange?
and we'll end on that
one's
note.
blue.
No,
Yeah.
they're blue, black, orange, and something else. But cool, they're trying to do something different. They've got this strange link, so there is more than just a single pivot. But I find they all just look like oranges. I don't know. Maybe it's good design language. Maybe it's outdated.
Out
Who
of all the
knows?
bikes in Eurobike, you wanted to talk about 5 new Orange bikes.
Not for a positive.
No, do you know what? I do think Orange have had a big part in like mountain bike history, and I think that I actually rode one with the Shimano EP8 a few years ago, and it rode really well. I think they do get quite a lot of stick, and I think maybe the looks play quite a big part into that. And I think mountain biking is a fashion thing, isn't it? Like if a bike looks good, you really, I think it plays with your mind. You find it rides better because it looks good, and it's a real looks-based sport, isn't it?
But they have actually got some cool updates. So there's like a storage unit now. So you've got storage, which we're seeing a lot of other brands do. I think it started off with Specialized in the Swap Pocket. So again, kind of getting up to date in terms of a single pivot bike as well. And they've now got UDH compatibility, and they've got a charger point at the top of the top tube.
And got extremely high prices.
Crazy.
That's what a lot of people were
crazy
saying.
high
How much are the
prices.
price? What's the price?
So the one that is that a Bosch SX motor? I think it's the Bosch SX motor.
I haven't seen these. I need to have a look
And
at
that
them.
is 6,900 for the Pro, and the factory is 8,300
For alloy bike.
for an alloy single pivot bike.
with a Bosch
Is
SX motor.
pricey.
Yeah.
It's pricey.
Right. On that note, on that bombshell, we're going to have to say goodbye. Jordan, thanks very much for coming in and,
Thanks
and
so much
chatting
for having me
bikes.
again, yeah.
And yeah,
been
pop in again soon. And thanks to Adam and Will. And we'll catch you real soon. Cheers for watching.
Bye.
See ya.
Cheers, guys.